Okay, let's get started. Welcome to this webinar of Front-End Scripts to the rescue. And yes, I honestly think Front-End Scripts can definitely help you out. As you probably have figured it out already, your microphones are muted. And well, that shouldn't be too much of an issue, because if you have any questions, go ahead, throw them in the Q&A. You can use the webinar chat as well, but please, if you have questions, throw them in the Q&A. That way it will be a lot easier for me to keep track on the questions and well, try to answer what must be answered. So any questions, sure thing, but in the Q&A, please. Let me just introduce myself before we get started. My name is Brian van Bakel. Working as a Zabbix trainer, Zabbix consultant at Opensource IST Solutions. And we are a Zabbix partner in the Netherlands, United Kingdom, and in the United States. Zabbix is our core business. We do not do Zabbix business as a side gig. It's actually the only thing that we do. And that means that we have the joy to work with the product, well, literally 24/7, without exception. And quite often, we are building front-end scripts. And with quite often, I'm not stating that it is every environment, but a lot of the environments are actually using front-end scripts. So let's see, well, what they are, how to configure, and why they are useful. First things first, front-end scripts. Yes, scripts, just scripts. Configured in the front end, executed from the front end. And that's actually extremely powerful because we can execute them in various places and change the behavior of well, a remote system or call some API things or do whatever we would like to do. In Zabbix 6, so the old menu structure, you go to administration scripts. In Zabbix 6.4, they moved it into the alert section. So it's still the same configuration, the same thing, but it's slightly moved from the location where to configure it. You configure those scripts or you use the default ones. So by default, there are 3 of them. And well, the first doesn't even work on most systems. The other 2 might be useful. So the first one is detecting an operating system, and it is using Nmap for it. And unfortunately, on a lot of systems, Nmap is not installed, and that's how it should be. The second and the third are just a ping or just a trace route. So nothing really fancy going on. And well, typically I just throw away those scripts. However, they give you already an idea of what can be done here. So we can execute some sort of well, command on a Zabbix server or on a proxy or on a Zabbix agent or on whatever machine to do something. And if you're creative enough, a lot is possible here. So let's just ignore the 3 default scripts and let's think a little bit outside of the box. In order to do so, we first must try to find where we can execute it. So dashboards on the problems list, in the hosts, latest data, and in the maps. So basically, on all places where there are dotted lines below the host name, or in this case, a problem, you can just click on it. Then you get this, well, drop down basically, where you can go into the latest data, configuration, etc., but also execute some sort of scripts. And that's how we use it. Now, it really depends on what you're trying to do, where you would like to use it. So here I'm looking at the problems list, and from that problem, I try to execute something, but we can also do it on a map, just to change the behavior of a remote host. And that's indeed one of the most important questions. What's the fun of front-end scripts? And although I think you can do really funny, interesting stuff with it, and I still think that monitoring is great fun. but at the same time, it should be useful as well. Extremely useful. And that's what we can do with scripts, actually. We can make them useful because they are so flexible within Zabbix. For a few customers, we have something that is creating maintenance periods on the fly. Or we do not let Zabbix automatically create a ticket, because not everything should be a ticket, but we do it on the fly from a front-end script. And that's what we, well, can do, but we can also execute things automatically. So if I jump to the next slide, we have a screenshot over here with, well, the first part of the configuration of a front-end script. So we must define a scope. We create a new script. Where should it be executed? So should it be available in our actions? If a trigger goes into the problem state, execute this front-end script. Should it be available on the hosts or on the events? Well, if we make it available on the host, manual host action, then we can execute it from, I don't know, the dashboard and the maps, etc. If we specify manual event action, then we basically can execute this one on problems. Then we specify the menu path, and I will cover that one in the upcoming slides. And we specify the types. And well, this is just adding a lot of the flexibility here, because we can call a webhook, creating a ticket, for example. We can execute some sort of script, a Python script, a bash script, just a normal command, things like that. We can force Zabbix to SSH into a remote machine, execute a command. And of course, the same thing with Telnet. But we can also execute IP-my commands, reboot the machine, restart some services, things like that. And then the next option, where should it be executed? On the Zabbix agent, on the Zabbix server, or on the Zabbix server, but if the host is monitored via a proxy, on the proxy. And yes, this is giving us so many options, so many possibilities to craft what we would like to have, that, well, front-end scripts are not only fun, but extremely useful as well. So I already mentioned manual host action. You click on the host name and execute some sort of script. Manual event action, you click on the problem name and execute some sort of script. So it depends a little bit on what you try to do here, which scope you would like to use. So those are where to execute it. But what to do, for example, with a webhook? Well, on the left screenshots, you see already the example. We will create a Jira ticket on a host. So actually, I did a few things there. I configured the menu path support. I specified that it should be executed on the host, or should be available on the host, that the type should be a webhook, then a bunch of parameters. And yes, I did not specify all parameters, and then some sort of custom script. Now, if you think that's great, but I'm not a JavaScript guru, or I do not want to spend that much time on things, don't worry. I didn't build this script myself. This script comes from the media types. So it's a default media type, create a Jira ticket. I simply copied the script, pasted it in here, replicated all parameters, removed some because, well, we do not need it to manually create a ticket. And from there, we, well, suddenly have a new front-end script without too much of your own configuration or too much effort. Menu path support, name, create Jira ticket. Then we go into the problems page. We click on the host name, support, create Jira ticket. Yes, we can build different menus, different levels. I'm gonna show it, hold on. So, well, here we have the example that we would like to create a ticket, but not automatically. And apparently on this Zabbix server, the utilization of the ICMP pinger process is more than 75% for 2 days, 18 hours already. Well, now we think it's worth a ticket. So that's the webhook part. If we go for the script option, we can tell where it should be executed. So on the Zabbix agent, on the Zabbix server, or if the host is monitored by the proxy, on the proxy, or on the Zabbix server solely. Here I selected execute on Zabbix agent, and the command that should be executed, sudo user bin system control restart grown-ed. I don't know, there is apparently an NTP problem and we would like to restart the grown-ed process. Well, I saved this one, execute it, not gonna work. We have a few prerequisites. The first one is that we should specify an allow key. So for security reasons, we cannot by default execute commands on the Zabbix agent, which is a very good thing. But yeah, we are trying to execute a command. So we should specify allow key is system.run. And here we specify that it can be anything, but we can, or we should, limit it to a specific command. And I'm not going into depth here how to play around with the allow and deny keys. But yeah, system run square bracket asterisk square bracket is probably not the most secure option, although it works. Once we specify this, the allow keys, then we try to execute it. And unfortunately, it still will not work. This command, this user bin system control restart grown-ed, will be executed by the Zabbix user. And probably the Zabbix user is not allowed to restart a process. So we have to fiddle around with sudo, or in the sudoers file, we must allow the Zabbix user to execute these commands. Once again, security-wise, really good, but sometimes a little bit annoying. Another thing that we can do, instead of executing a script, we can force Zabbix to SSH into a remote machine and do something. And that do something is literally just a command. So let's start at the left screenshot. We try to get out a host name. It should be executed on the host with menu path services, type SSH, authentication method, password. And yes, I am trying to log in as root with this great password. It will use the default port, the default SSH port 22, and then it will execute this command. Well, this command on its own is not really insecure. Echo the host name. That's perfectly fine. But I'm SSHing as root. And as root, I can do, well, a few more dangerous commands. Probably not the best idea to use root, but yeah, for Zabbix, it's just username, password, execute command. That's it. Another thing, when we are talking about security, we can change the authentication method from password to public key. And then we specify the username, the name of the public and the private key, and optionally the key passphrase. We just specify the name of those files here, not the path. The path is configured in the Zabbix agent, in the Zabbix server configuration file. So we tell, well, in this directory, our public keys and private key files are stored. And then in the front end, we just specify the name. Either way, we need some sort of authentication. And well, SSH into the machine, echo the host name. So let's execute this. Script execution was successful. And apparently I was using a machine with hostname trainer. So that one just works perfectly fine. The next option is completely ignored in the slides. And well, I hope you understand why I completely ignored it. Although it is supported by Zabbix, I really really hate Telnet. Security-wise, again, it's all about security. Telnet is a nightmare. When we are using Telnet, we get the same options basically. However, with SSH, the username and password are sent encrypted, whilst Telnet is completely unencrypted. And yes, when I have something like TCP dump or Wireshark capturing the traffic between the Zabbix server and that remote host, I can just read along with the username and password. And if that username happens to be root, then yeah, basically you gave away the keys to the castle. So Telnet, yeah, sometimes it's your only option and then go for it. But by default, I highly discourage using Telnet. Really don't. Last option here, IPMI commands. And in my experience, it's not used too often, but it can be extremely useful. So once again, a manual host action with the menu path services, and command to be executed is an IPMI reboot. The type IPMI, and we just give a command here, power cycle. So what Zabbix is doing, it's connecting to the IPMI interface of that particular host, which means that it tries to connect to Dell iDRAC or HP ILO interfaces, or the Supermicro interface, or the SRock interface, or whatever vendor you're using. And once it was able to authenticate, then it will execute the script power cycle, which, well, is a reboot. So here we actually can try to correct problems. Not sure why you would like to reboot the Zabbix server via IPMI if the ICMP pinger is too busy, but nevertheless, it can be done. It's up to you. And it really depends on the use case, which command is or is not too useful. You have seen already a few examples here. Menu paths, extremely useful, in my opinion. So we start using scripts, and we are building environments where we have literally thousands of scripts. But you definitely do not want to have all those scripts in one long list. So we are building menus. And in order to do so, we must populate the menu path. So here I just have the script name, and I leave the menu path empty. And it will be placed on the main level when you click on a host or an event. But if I specify a menu path, and this is free text, it's completely up to you, menu1 / menu2 / menu3. And Zabbix will create menu1, 2, 3, and then the script name. And of course, we can have multiple scripts in menu1, multiple in 2, and multiple in 3. So we can literally do a mix and match. On menu1, we can have another menu and some scripts. On menu2, we can have another menu and some scripts. And on menu3, well, you get the point. You can really daisy chain these things. And that way you, well, just make sure that you keep things organized. With one script, don't bother. With 10 scripts, well, you probably would like to have some organization there. If you have hundreds of scripts on a Zabbix environment, you're definitely gonna need those menu paths to keep things organized. Another thing, permissions. Is every user allowed to execute a reboot command or whatever command? And is that user allowed to do that on every host? Well, probably not. So those are the two things we can filter on. We can tell in the script configuration that this particular script only can be executed on the selected host group. And in this case, the selected host group is the Linux servers group. And oh, by the way, it can only be executed by the user group Zabbix administrators. And that way we just make sure that the select group of users can execute this front-end script on a select group of servers. Security-wise, that's a good idea. But also, what if that command is restarting HTTPD? System control restart HTTPD. On a Linux server where HTTPD is running or should be running, that's perfectly fine. But it makes no sense to try and restart HTTPD on a Windows machine. So yeah, don't bother, don't allow it on the Windows machines. That's basically the idea there. And well, of course, user group, probably you do not want some sort of team lead that can see the Zabbix front end to execute these kind of scripts without really knowing what's going on. So we can limit which user group is allowed to do these things. And we can ask for a confirmation. So it's just a checkbox, enable confirmation, and then we can type the confirmation text. Are you sure to execute this script? You click on the test confirmation, and well, this is what the user will see once he tries to execute that script. Another thing that we can do, or should do probably, is invoke built-in macros here. Are you sure to execute the script on curly bracket host.name curly bracket? It might be, or it might look like redundant information. You click on the Zabbix server host, try to execute the script, and Zabbix is asking you, are you sure to execute the script on the Zabbix server? You might think, but I just clicked on the Zabbix server. So what is this? Yes, I agree. If there is just one problem, one host where you can click on, that it's perfectly fine to have something like, are you sure to execute the script? But if you are using front-end scripts in maps, you click on an icon and then the script will be executed. But the question is, did you click on the correct icon? And again, if there is just one icon in the map, don't bother. But what if there are 500 icons? What if you click on the icon, execute the script, and then you start thinking, did I click on the correct one? Well, in those examples, presenting the host name once again is just important. We have, again, we have environments where we are completely shutting down systems from maps with hundreds of icons. And then the knock operator is always double checking, did I click the correct icon to execute this command on? He is actually using that name to confirm his selection. Are you sure to execute the script on the Zabbix server? Yes, I am. Execute it. And that way it's just adding, well, an extra confirmation for, once again, security. So we execute the script. Bam, there it goes. And then what? Well, Zabbix will try to execute the script. And yeah, basically you will see in the front end that something is loading. It really looks like something is loading there. But that shouldn't take forever, because if something is loading, what's going on? I mean, is the process hanging? Is something else going on? So yeah, give me that idea. What is actually going on there? In order to make sure that things do not keep hanging in the front end, there is a default timeout set to 60 seconds. So for example, command to be executed, echo command before sleep, then sleep 120, 2 minutes, and command after sleep. If I execute this command, then in the front end, things seem to be freezing because the command is running, but after 60 seconds, connection timeout of 60 seconds exceeded. And it will basically, well, kill that command and just stop it. And that's to prevent that the front end is just hanging on some never-ending query. In general, I think that this 60-second timeout is already too long. Some scripts might be slow, but if they are slow, just move them to the background with the end sign or no hub or disown or whatever commands you would like to use there. But waiting for it, if you know that it is taking a lot of time, might not be the best option. Once again, leave it up to you. So let's give you some ideas. Frontend script with the name 1 hour. It's a manual host action in the menu pod maintenance /create. Type is a script, and it must be always executed on the Zabbix server. Command to be executed, Python 3, user lib Zabbix, frontend scripts /maintenance.py. First parameter, create. The second one, host.host. And the third one, in this case, is seconds, 3600. This is a manual host action. So I can click from the dashboard or the host page or the latest data page or the problem page or the maps on a host name and execute the script that is in pod maintenance create and then 1 hour. Script is actually calling Python. And from there, that Python script will be invoked. There is a create statement, and it will use host.host for the host where I clicked on, and then 3600 as parameter. What will happen is that my Python script here will try to create a maintenance period for 1 hour with the duration of 1 hour starting now. Not sure how familiar you are with the Zabbix frontend, but normally you go to configuration maintenance, and there you can configure maintenance periods. But in order to access the configuration menu, you must be an admin. And as an admin, you can change the configuration as well. So that's probably not what you want. With this approach, every user or the ones that you selected can just from the dashboard or from the latest data page, select this host and place it in maintenance for whatever period you specify. The other option, of course, is to delete the maintenance. So we place this host in maintenance for a certain amount of time. And then after, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 6 hours or whenever it's not needed anymore, we can call a frontend script, basically the same script, delete now. And that way we can take out the host from its maintenance again. What else is possible? Well, a lot. Generally, a lot. Because we are just calling scripts from the front end of Zabbix, we can execute SNMP walks. We can update some sort of remote API to change behavior. We can query, of course, a remote API to get the most up-to-date information. We can use the Zabbix API to enable a host, to disable a host, to place it in maintenance, to get it out of maintenance, to change the tag, or do whatever you can think of. We can, and with Zabbix 6.4, that's not really needed anymore. We can execute a config cache reload on both the Zabbix server or the proxy. We can start processes, we can stop processes, we can reboot machines, we can change parameters, we can, whatever you can think of. We are just calling scripts from the front end of Zabbix. And most examples here should be executed on the Zabbix server. Of course, config cache reload for the proxy should be executed on the proxy, but we can also execute all these commands on remote machines, so monitoring targets. That's just possible without any problems. Make sure that you meet the prerequisites and, well, there you are. A lot of options, and hence the title of this webinar, Front-End Scripts to the Rescue. You can build a complete management suite within Zabbix. Of course, I know I'm familiar with the fact that Zabbix is not really meant for this, but it doesn't mean that you cannot use or should not use it. Of course, use wisely, but in the end, the product is not really limiting you to, well, do or do not use things. And that's what the product in general is about, not trying to limit you. And well, I'm a Zabbix trainer myself, providing all these trainings from our company. We are more than happy to learn you about what Zabbix can do, what it cannot do, and how to utilize the product. In order to do so, we provide the official Zabbix trainings, and there are 4 different levels. We've got the certified user, 1-day training. We've got the certified specialist, 5-day training. We've got the certified professional, 3-day training. And well, for those that are really, really happy with the product, really would like to learn everything about it, we also provide the certified expert. Certified expert, 5 days, and actually extremely useful as we are really diving into the product, all internals, all database stuff, etc. Really funny, useful training. Another thing that we offer, support. So, well, you might be familiar with the product and know that it can be extremely complicated, both in the configuration, but also to troubleshoot things. As an official partner, we are providing all official support levels. So silver, gold, platinum, enterprise, global 1. Some of them are just office hours, silver, gold. Platinum, enterprise, global 1 are 24/7. And that means that you can just call us 24/7 if you have problems with the Zabbix server, Zabbix proxy, agents, configuration, whatever. And we will help you out. So official support provided by us, backed by the vendor Zabbix. And actually, that's how we make a living out of a free product. I mean, we have nothing to sell. Zabbix, 100% open source. But still, we manage to make a living out of it. Well, how do we do that? By providing services. So I already showed the technical support part. We discussed the professional trainings. We can upgrade your Zabbix instance to the latest, greatest version. We can build custom integrations and then, well, connecting it with the ticketing system, some sort of service desk tool, CMDB, whatever you can think of. We can build Zabbix as a turnkey solution for you. That's actually great fun because, well, we just take the monitoring to a higher level. Building templates for whatever device you can think of. Remote troubleshooting. If you have problems, you can get assistance somewhat fast. And of course, a lot of my job as well, consultancy services. So designing environments, giving advice, building things, etc. All services are provided by us, and we are present in the Netherlands, United Kingdom, and the United States. So it depends a little bit on, well, where you are located, which of the subsidiaries will take care of all your requests. But we can definitely help you out. That's all from my side. 30 minutes webinar showing you, well, a brief overview of front-end scripts. I don't really see questions. There's the first question in the Q&A. If you have questions, please throw them in the Q&A and I will try to answer them. So I do not provide these PowerPoints by email, but I will try to publish it on YouTube. It should be recorded somewhere. So I will try to publish it on YouTube later today, later this week. Any other questions? And if there are no questions, thank you for joining this webinar. I hope it was useful. And of course, enjoy your day. So I will keep the webinar open for a few more minutes to see if there are any questions. And if not, I'll just close it. So thanks all. Yes, we can execute front-end scripts on Windows agents as well. Definitely. Okay, it seems there are no more questions. So I will stop this webinar and see if I can get the recording out. So thank you all once again for joining and hope to see you in some future webinars.